Hello friends, welcome or welcome back. Today I am doing a get ready with me using nothing new. So I'm gonna be dipping into some old favorites, some products I've had for a long time. I just thought with Thanksgiving season being here, I would take time to really focus on things that I already have, products that I appreciate, the things that I'm grateful for. And then come Black Friday, I'll switch back into consumerism. Kidding. I always start off with priming my eyes with the Fenty Beauty Eye Primer. It really is the best, especially if you have oily eyelids like I do. And the sunscreen that I have been using for a very long time is the Native sunscreen. It's with Zinc Oxide, it's SPF 30. It is a natural sunscreen and I prefer to keep natural sunscreens on my face. I don't really like to use chemical ones for my face. As always, start off with my eyeshadow. Let's use the original Naked palette. This has been around forever. I have not had this one since it launched. I'm just gonna take the shade Naked and sort of set my primer with that. I feel like this was the eyeshadow palette that kind of set the makeup world on fire way back in the day when YouTube was first starting. There's a lot of really good memories attached to this product. I think it was the first eyeshadow palette I ever got for myself and I was so excited. I used it all the time. I'm gonna use the shade Sidecar. I'm gonna put that all over my lid. This is my favorite shade from this palette. I wear it all the time still. It's just so pretty. It's perfect for every day. Next, I'm gonna take the shade Buck and just put that in the crease for a little bit of definition. Just doing a super easy, super simple look today. And for the final step, we're gonna take the shade Virgin and highlight the brow bone. This is one of my favorite brow bone shades ever. I still use it all the time, even if I'm not specifically using this palette for my eye look that day. If I don't like the highlight option in the palette that I'm using, or I don't think anything really goes, I will use this shade because I love it. I do think I want a little more definition on the outside, so I'm gonna take the shade Dark Horse and just put that on my outer corners real quick. And carry that a little bit into the crease as well. Just a touch. Let me know if you still have any of these Naked palettes. I know they've come out with so many of these palettes over the years, but I feel like this original palette and then the 2 and the 3 were like the most popular. I still have the Naked 3 palette as well. I really like that one. I used to have Naked 2. I had that one for years and then I just kind of stopped using it. For eyeliner today, we're going in with the Kat Von D Tattoo Liner, tried and true. Used this for years. It's a good go-to. It never fails. Back in the day, I used to only use gel liners. Like, if you remember the Bobbi Brown like liner pots, I think I had like almost every single shade in those, and that was all I used for so long. And then one day I just kind of got tired of gel liner and I switched back to these more like felt tip liquid liner ones, and I haven't looked back since, but never say never. Okay, moving on to face now. I'm going to use the Rare Beauty foundation. What is this even called? It's just the foundation, but I think it's like the only true foundation they have in their line. This is one of my all-time favorite foundations. I've used it for years. I wore this for my wedding. It's really good, even if you have oily skin. It is a bit more of like a dewy finish, but it doesn't make me any more oily than I already am. And it just looks really nice on the skin. So I'm just gonna blend that out with the Spectrum B01. This is just their buffing foundation brush. A little bit goes a long way with this foundation too. You don't really need a whole lot. It feels really comfortable on the skin, especially now since it's starting to cool down in the fall time here in Southern California. It gets really, really dry. So my skin really appreciates the extra hydration from this foundation for sure. Okay, now I'm going in with the Rare Beauty, just the under eye brightener. I didn't sleep super great last night, so I could definitely use a little bit of brightness under here. I've had my eye on the Huda Beauty the faux, what's it called? Like the faux filter under eye corrector, but it's been sold out in my shade for a very long time. But once that comes back in stock, I do want to get my hands on that. Does anybody remember the NYX under eye correctors? They came in like the little pots and it was bright orange. I used to use that all the time too. I wonder if they even make that anymore. I don't really live near a whole lot of Ultas, so I don't get to Ulta a lot, but I know for sure they still sell NYX at Ulta. I'm starting to see NYX pop up in a few Targets near me, which is cool, but I should really revisit some of those products. A lot of them are just really nostalgic for me. And for concealer, going in with the Rare Beauty concealer, my shade is 200C. Oh, I use the same shade in the foundation too, 200C. This is such a great concealer, honestly. It's the only concealer I used for a very long time. I just recently picked up a new concealer, the Tower 28 one, but I have no complaints about this Rare Beauty concealer. Oh, I'm using a Spectrum B05 brush. This is my absolute favorite for concealer. If I'm not using a sponge, this is the brush I always use for concealer. It just fits so perfectly. Let's go ahead and set that with the Kosas, the Cloud Set powder. I have the shade Comfy. I'm gonna be honest, when I first got this powder, I really didn't like it. Like, I didn't see what the hype was all about. It did absolutely nothing, but I kept it too long to return it. So I was like, I'll just use it and use it up. And honestly, the more that I have been using it, I really actually love this powder now, especially with it getting dry. My skin really seems to like it. Just gonna set the smile lines too. And a little bit on the nose. I'm actually gonna go ahead and set my forehead with powder because I'm gonna be using a powder bronzer. So we'll just make sure the forehead is set before I go in with that. And my cheeks too. Okay, the face is all set and we are looking pretty good. I'm gonna go in with bronzer now. My absolute favorite bronzer is the Fenty Beauty Powder Bronzer, the Stalk'r one. My shade is Private Island. I used to never ever use bronzer, and then, oh gosh, 2 years ago now, when I got back from my honeymoon, we were in the Bahamas, so I was getting a lot of sun for almost 2 full weeks. We came back and I had this amazing, like, real tan. I was like, oh, that's why people use bronzer. And now I use bronzer every day, but this was actually the bronzer I went out and got once I got back from that trip, and I have used it religiously since then. I think it's such a good bronzer. It looks really natural. The shade is perfect. Their shade range is really extensive too. I mean, that's just how Fenty Beauty has always been. I'm sure most of us appreciate that. Oh, and that was a Spectrum Sculpt. This is the #1 brush. This is what I prefer to use for bronzer. Okay, I'm just gonna really quickly do my eyebrows. These actually are new to me, but they're the only brow products I even have right now. It's the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil and the Woe Brow Gel. They just look like that. I don't keep more than one brow product at a time. Brows, I've said this in previous videos, but brows just do not excite me. Like, they're just brows, so whatever gets the job done. And then I just set that with the brow gel. If you're really in a rush, you can just use this brow gel to do your brows, because it really does. You can build it up and fill in those spots. If you don't want to do a pencil and then a gel, you can just use this. Okay, I have curled my lashes, and for mascara, we're using the Rare Beauty mascara. It's pretty much all I've used all year. I really love this mascara. Again, another product I didn't really quite get the hype around when I first got it, but the more I used it and the more I learned to use it, the more I really liked it. And now I've repurchased it so many times since. Okay, so that just leaves us with blush, one of my favorites. And I'm going to use this KVD, what are these even called? The Everlasting blush. This is the shade Snapdragon. It's just the perfect, everyday, pretty, healthy looking blush shade. I use this all the time. I've had it for a long time. Nobody really talks about these, but they're super pigmented, so I do have to be careful. That might have been way too much, but let's just see what happens. Oh, that's okay. It's okay. And this is just the Spectrum, whatever their angled blush brush is, the A05. I have so many of this exact brush because they include it in pretty much every single collection that they have. This is the Alice in Wonderland collection. but I have it in like the Cinderella one, the Ursula one, the marble one. But honestly, like, do you even need a different blush shape? I don't know. My cheeks aren't very round, so these more angled blush brushes are perfect. I really don't hear anybody talking about these blushes. Nobody really talks about this brand anymore, but these blushes are so good. They really do last all day. They're super pigmented. I think last time I was in Sephora, I only saw like 2 or 3 shades of this blush left. I do believe this Snapdragon shade was one of the ones they still carry. But I mean, seriously, if you like powder blush and you want something that really is gonna stay all day, they're a great option. I'm just gonna kind of blend that out a bit. Okay, face is done. And to finish off the look with some lips, let's use this Urban Decay lipstick. I don't even know what this range is called, but it's the shade Ravenswood. Had this for a while. It's really pretty. Just the perfect everyday natural shade. These lipsticks are really comfortable too. The only thing about this packaging is it gets like, closing it can be a bit of a challenge, but well, that is the finished look. Super easy, everyday, using products that I have had forever. I really hope this inspired you to go back through your own collections and see what products you've had for a long time you maybe haven't used in a while. I'm wishing you the happiest Thanksgiving, and I will see you in the next one.